Hey, it's Benjie Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Jack Randle. We'll be discussing his book, Lights of Fire, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And Jack was brought to People of Distinction by Parchment Global Publishing as well, okay? So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Parchment. You can find them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. Lights of Fire is such a great book. Back in 1959, a group of Russian hikers went on a hike and mysteriously went missing. I mean, it's an eerie story. It's an eerie case. And we have Jack here to tell us about it. And listen, Jack is the expert on the matter, okay? So without further ado, let's bring him here on the line because he's going to be able to articulate these points much, much better than I ever could. So without further ado, Jack, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you, Benji. It's good to be here to talk to you about the book.
We're very much looking forward to this, okay, Jack? Now, listen, before we get into the title itself, let's hold off slightly, okay? Let's build that temptation just a little bit more. Tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I was a Bible student for about 20 years, and I did a lot of in-depth reading of the Bible through a ministry that I used to listen to. So I got to know the Bible pretty well, and so I guess I just have an everyday life just like everybody pretty much. And
there it is. Absolutely. Well, fantastic. I mean, listen, what more needs to be said? Let's jump right into it, Jack. Lights of Fire. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, it's a book about 9 Russian hikers. It was brought to my attention through a radio show that I was listening to. I seen an orb one night. It was after midnight, and I never saw anything like it before coming across the sky in front of me. And till that day, I never saw anything like it. So next thing you know, it's coming to my attention about these orbs. And a racehorse named Orb won the Kentucky Derby in 2013, which got me into the Bible then to find out, what is this all about? Mm-hmm. So next thing you know, I'm hearing about these Russian hikers that went missing, and they were seeing orbs around that event. So then I got some books, and I started reading on it. And then I got the one book that gave the autopsies and some of the mysteries around the event. And it got me searching more and more. And then next thing you know, I figured it said to me they wanted to hear our ideals. So I started writing a book on it, on the ideals for the theory that I have for what happened that night.
So Jack, I thank you so much for that synopsis. Now, you talk about these 9 hikers that went missing, but then you also referenced you were overlooking the autopsy reports. So they went missing, and at least one of them passed away. Talk to us a little bit, elaborate on that. So they died from this event.
Yeah, all 9 of them died that night. One hiker turned back early because he had health problems. He had rheumatism, and he knew if he went along the rest of the way, he was just going to be a hindrance to him. So he turned back early, and that saved his life. But the other 9, they all perished that night under mysterious circumstances. They walked away from the tent without coats and boots on, and they couldn't figure out why, under 30-degree below zero temperatures, why would they do that? And they walked down. They didn't run in a chaotic, panicked fashion. They walked in an organized walk down the slope, barefooted, without coats. And that was a mystery to start out with. But then when they got down there, they found a lot of other things that were very mysterious. The woman was missing her tongue and both of her eyes, and another man was missing his eyes. And they had their chest crushed. The woman had her chest crushed. It crushed her chest on both sides, breaking her ribs on both sides, and they said she couldn't have lived 10 minutes after that happened. And that was down the slope in a ravine. The two hikers were under a cedar tree. They found them first, and they just died of hypothermia. Then there was 3 hikers on the slope, and they died of hypothermia. And the one man on the slope had a head injury, severe head injury with that hypothermia. But they didn't know how they got there and what separated them that night. Something separated them that night, and they couldn't figure out how these things happened to them. And injuries were like a compression type injury. They didn't have no scrapes or puncture marks or rock scrapes or anything. It was like a compression, like their chest was crushed, like it would have been put in a vice or something. Oh, and then, like I said, the one that had that was on the slope. The other one was in the ravine, and the 4 bodies in the ravine were in the creek. They made a floor, and they don't know why they walked away from the floor. They said, they went to all that work to make a floor for like a snow fort, or like refuge for the night. But they found them 6 feet or 6 meters away from the floor in the creek. So they don't even know why they went to all that work to walk away and sustained all those injuries. And then the one man had heart failure, and they couldn't figure out why he would be laying in the creek with the 3 with internal injuries, why they would be there in the creek with him, why he was there in the creek with them. So it was a lot of mysteries like that behind the case. The man on the slope, he had 5 to 7 centimeters of ice under him, and he was the only one that had that much ice. There had to be a lot of heat coming off his body for that much ice, and there was a lot of mysteries like that. They climbed a tree and they fell back down out of it. So they don't know why the one guy climbed the tree and fell back down out of it. And the other 2, they fell over the fire, putting the fire out after they had the fire going for 2 hours. The fire they figured was burning for over 2 hours. So they couldn't figure out why they fell over the fire.
This is eerie stuff. So now really just right off the bat, let's start back with when they were in the tent. It's not like they ran or scattered from where they had set up their home base. You said that there's just clean footprints. So they were just walking. Now, right off the bat, you would automatically assume if they left in such frigid weather without their clothes or without their shoes, something may have alerted them or scared them to the point where they would actually leave and go walking barefoot through the snow in negative 30-degree weather. But the reports aren't showing that, right? It's showing that they're walking in a clean, organized manner. Now, through your research, were there any speculations or assumptions as to why or how any of this took place?
Yeah, some of them said it was a avalanche, which the avalanche theory doesn't have any facts behind it because the tent wasn't pushed off the foundation. If it was an avalanche, it would have took the foundation of the tent and moved the tent off the foundation. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case. They cut the tent from the inside and walked away. And they didn't run, so they walked. So whatever happened, which I give the theory in the book, they walked away. They were motivated to walk away from that tent. They cut the tent and were motivated to walk away. And then they didn't run down the slope. They walked down that slope to a cedar tree. There's a cedar tree about 1,500 meters away from the tent down the slope. There was no trees on the slope. It's called Dead Mountain because there's no trees on it. The trees are down at the base, and so they walked over a mile down to the cedar tree, barefoot and without coats. So whatever moved them they were motivated to move away from the tent and try to find other place of refuge. So, and then there's a lot of things that happened in between there. Now, the book takes the reader through the whole 6 hours. They figure the event lasted 6 hours they figured from about 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. So the book will go through the whole 6 hours as what took place, how they ended up where they ended up, and how they sustained their injuries, and how they got to their final resting place. So and through that, it goes through the mysteries and why they fell over the fire, why someone climbed the cedar tree, why they built the floor, and then they ended up 6 meters away from it in the creek with those injuries. And it explains the whole night. I go through the whole night explaining it with a theory that I got from the Bible, which was brought to my attention from a Bible story from the Old Testament. It comes from the story of Gideon and the lamps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the theory comes from. But that's the basis of what motivated the story for me to put this story together. It come from that story of Gideon.
Now, talk to us about the title, Lights of Fire. I mean, listen, I could assume what the title means, but you know what happens when you assume, Jack, and we're not going to do that. So talk to our listening audience about, how did you develop that particular title and bring that into fruition? And is there any specific reference to that title pertaining to the underlying themes of the book?
Yeah, there was a man whose name was Orb in the Old Testament, and that's from the story from Gideon. His name is O-R-E-B. Well, the name means to swarm like mosquitoes and intermix and interbraid. William Guy in 2019 took a ferry boat ride across the Pimlico Sounds, North Carolina, and he took videos of 14 orbs swarming like mosquitoes out over the ocean. These videos also help back up the theory in my book. It's the William Guy, the orbs video from a ferry boat ride across the Pimlico Sounds, North Carolina. And it's the kind of lights that we were seeing. It's the lights of fire. They look like lights of fire just hovering in the sky. Now, the one I saw was an orange red, and it moved in front of me without making a sound. And it just sort of moved in front of me, and then it got to the east side of the valley, and then it went up into the clouds, which were low that night. But that's where I got the title Lights of Fire, because of these orbs that they were seeing around the 1959 case, along with the orb that I saw, and then they can look and see that what we were seeing by the William Guy's video,
mm-hmm.
when they do that Google search.
Once again, here on the line with Jack Randle. We're discussing his book, Lights of Fire, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Jack, as we continue to move on, listen, we know about the book, we know about the title. You started to go into your inspiration in terms of, your background and connection to the Bible and how this story was very similar and plays into your theory, which, guys, listen, just to take a quick pause on that. Listen, you know what you got to do if you want to learn Jack's theory, okay? You got to pick up the book. There's no way around it, okay? We're not going to give that to you here. Go and pick up the book, learn his theory there. But as we continue, Jack, talk to our listening audience. Why did you feel that this was a book that needed to be written? And it wasn't good enough to just stay as an idea or a concept in your mind, but something that you really wanted to put out to the mass public for them to be able to partake in as well.
Well, it's basically for that warning that, when you do something that is evil, there's consequences for it. In my opinion, the 9 Russian hikers were in the nuclear industry. Those nuclear weapons were meant for the United States, which was a Christian nation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if somebody touches one of your children, you don't want to put up with it. So that's basically what I think that's basically why I wanted to put this book out, is so that people realize that when you go off into doing evils to people, you may be touching one of his children, and you're going to pay a consequence, which I think the 9 hikers paid that night. Being a atheistic people partaking in a evil program for an evil empire who's is a controlling empire. It's written in the Bible that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. So, I mean, our Heavenly Father stands with the people that are living with freedom, that they can read His Word without intimidation. And before 1991, Bibles were not allowed into Russia. After Reagan started the Star Wars program, it more or less ran Russia into bankruptcy, which they went bankrupt in 1991, and that allowed Bibles to go into Russia. So, I mean, it's a story that gives the book gives the story of what the consequences is for standing with evil, and why those things happen like that.
You know, this was the first time that I've heard about this story with the 9 Russian hikers, and what more can we say, right? The overall message, the underlying theme, as we've already discussed, you're held accountable for your actions. So the main thing, of course, that can be taken is really just operate, and really you want to treat people with kindness. Treat people, it's like that old adage, right, that we've heard so many times, right? Treat others the way you would like to be treated. And what a great message that doesn't get nearly talked about as much as it should, but what a great message to have. But the underlying case, really, that this is even taken from, that this is, guys, get out there. You know what you have to do, okay? Go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, pick up your copy of Lights of Fire by Jack Randle. Such an amazing book with a great, powerful message behind it. Do the research yourself. Formulate your opinion utilizing Jack's theory that he has put together, and then make the decision for yourself. That is absolutely fantastic. Jack, this has been wonderful and so enlightening. Thank you very much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benjie. Thank you for the time. And one more thing I'd like to say is that it also brings in the story of Moses and the Passover. Mm-hmm. So you may say it's a book with a modern day Passover message. So yeah, I appreciate the time, and I hope the readers can find it informative and find it interesting. And I thank our Heavenly Father for giving me the theory. I think it was awesome that He was able to bring this story to my attention like this. So again, I thank you again, Benjie, for giving me the time.